You are listening to Realign Your Life podcast, where I discuss with you strategies on how to realign your life and move towards the direction you always want to. I am Vivian, the host of this podcast, and every week I will bring value on how to improve and realign your life either through a guest or my thoughts. I can't wait to share what we have this week. It's time to realign your life. Well, hello there, and welcome back to Realign Your Life podcast. This is the show that shares with you strategies and insight on how to realign your life and to move towards the way that you always want to. I'm the host of this show. I'm Vivian, and I am so excited and just absolutely honored for you to be with me here today for this episode. Well, I've got a real special treat for you today, and I know that you guys are going to be real excited about this. You know, the other day I was online and I came across this video that I'd seen some time ago, and it was all about this woman, the rise and success of the first Black woman billionaire. And this was Sheila Johnson. And in her story, you can go online and research that, but in her story, it tells about how she had to do some adjustments in her life and had to do some realignment. So Sheila Johnson was married at one time to Bob Johnson, and they were the owners of BET. And so once they separated and divorced, she had to do some realigning, and she had to go back and find herself. And so now this woman, wow, like I said, she's the first Black female billionaire. So she owns a hockey team. She owns a basketball team, a women's basketball team, and several resorts. So sometimes we have to adjust. We have to realign, and we have to make an adjustment in our life. And so we have to adjust when necessary. And how do you know when it's necessary to do that? Well, I've got a special guest with us today, and she's going to share with you all about how we can adjust when necessary. So welcome back, Regina.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about sharing the book, but I'm excited that I'm part of this podcast because I have been learning from so many of your guests and taking notes and using those things to make adjustments in my own life.
Well, that is absolutely wonderful. So I am so excited for you and what is going on in your life, because the last time you were here, we were discussing the first book that you wrote and published, and that was called By the Grace I See, by the grace given to me by God. And since that time, you've written another book. Oh my gosh. It hasn't been a year. So people, I'm telling you, when you're determined and you know and you find out what your purpose is, you can realign and keep it moving. And that is just what Miss Regina has done. So we're going to talk a little bit more about her book and how she came about getting this book started. So, but Regina, the first thing that I would love to do is for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you hail from, what you're doing now, where you are now, and just share with our audience.
So, Vivian, I'm from Charlotte, born and raised, and my family is there, and I look forward to every time going back and just being familiar, to drive on the familiar streets and just be able to be myself around family. But the adjustment came a little over a year ago that it was time to move to Virginia, and not specifically Virginia, but I knew it was time to make an adjustment. And I think that was prompted by, having two family members pass away, and someone else I knew had lost their mom. It hadn't been recent. It hadn't been too far in the past that I had lost my own mom. So experiencing loss and just thinking, what am I doing for myself in this season? What am I? How am I going to leave a legacy? How is my story going to be told in this season of my life? Because the cousins I lost were not that much older than me. And so it just really prompted me to thinking about this season that I'm in.
Wow. Wow. So that took a lot of thinking, that took a lot of going inward and really dissecting, where am I now? And I'm at a crossroads. I'm in a new season of my life. So, Regina, what would you say when it comes to realigning your life? How do you distinguish between what is necessary and unnecessary sacrifice?
God doesn't promise us happiness, but He does promise us joy. And so I think living alone, I was assessing how much joy I was getting out of life. What was I doing that was really cultivating the things that I'm interested in, that bring me pleasure, that bring me joy? I was living alone in a 3-bedroom house. I could assess that I was no longer entertaining, no longer inviting people in, just pretty much looking forward to coming home from work and doing nothing. So I had to get that joy back. I had to get that motivation back. I still, at that point, had not published the first book that I had told people about 10 years before. So I had to, do some analysis of my goals and what I wanted my future to look like. My children were grown. They didn't need me as much anymore. And how much of my life was going to be dependent on them stopping by or them planning vacations and things around me. Or I could get up and create my own life that I wanted to see.
So in doing that, what were some of the things that you took into consideration? I hear you saying that you kind of analyzed that. So what were your next steps? And you're realizing that, okay, I don't have the joy there that is supposed to be there. I'm not enjoying myself. My kids are grown. They got their thing that they're doing. So here I am. Here Regina is. So how did Regina make the decision? What were the things that you did to make that decision to move forward? Because I know that our audience wants to know, okay, so how did she do that? What was it that she actually did? So what was it? And talk about some flexibility and how does flexibility play? What role does flexibility play in that? Played in that?
Well, any kind of adjustment might involve money and finances. My sister and I had already started trying to travel, make plans to travel. So creating trips, that cost money. My house was older, that cost money. I was doing the things in the house that I felt like I could do, like paint. It just, painting is therapeutic. And I think doing repainting my living room and dining room, trying to bring some kind of joy back to the house or refreshing the house, whatnot. That gave me time to think about how could I use the money I have to bring joy. And I just didn't see at the time where that money was going to come from to create that joy. And so I began doing my research on the market. and ended up, long story short, selling my house. But that took some analyzing. What would I do with that money? How would I live? Where would I live? What would it take to?
So how did you come to the decision? How did you come to the decision to sell your house? What went into that? Because now you're adjusting because it was necessary for you to adjust. What is it that prompted you to sell your house? And what was the steps that you took toward that?
I actually had to write some things down, the cost that it would take to bring my house up to date. At one point, I had people living with me that helped with income. So I took a hard look at what it would cost to bring my house and repairs up to date, up to speed, so that somebody could live there again if I decided to go that route. That's not really what I wanted to do. I believe that happened for a season at a time when I was taking care of my mother and had to cut back on work. But that's not what I really seen for my future, sharing a home. And so I had to put some pen to paper about what it would cost to do all those repairs. And then I looked at where the market was, got some advice from my realtor about what I could get for the house. And then I had I had to have long-term goals for making that money work for me.
Okay. So you went to a realtor. So what came in your mind to sell the house, to put your house on the market?
I looked at the neighborhood. I looked at what I had done for the last 5 years in the house, and the neighborhood was changing. I just wanted to do more travel. That was more important to me at the time than having a home. And also, I wasn't bringing the income in to make the repairs, so I had to make some kind of adjustment. I did not want to rent rooms out at the time anymore. I didn't want to go that route. And I just was not earning the income to bring the house up to standard. No, nor was I earning the income to travel like I wanted to.
Okay. So those were part of your decisions, decision making was, I want to travel. I don't have enough income. So what is the next best thing for me to do? I don't want to rent out rooms anymore. So you would say to maybe somebody that is in this same situation or is debating, how do I do this? What is my next thing? So you talked about moving, starting over again or starting a new life. So what influenced you in making the decision to move to Virginia? And did you have something in plan? Did you have something in place at that time as to where you would live?
Well, I actually did research on places in Florida that was friendly to retirees, because I'm not retired now. I'm still working, but I was projecting what retirement would look like for me. And a couple places in Florida. Again, I was actually writing this information down, asking questions. I have a friend whose mother had moved from New York to Gainesville, Florida. And so I was collecting information from people that knew. I looked at Florida and I looked at Maryland. I looked at, projections for retirement, what was healthy environments to live in, what the crime looked like. I actually did my own work on the places. So I knew people. I knew a couple people in Maryland, and I knew a few people who lived in different places in Virginia. I had been coming to Virginia to visit a friend, and she had the same educational background I did, so I could actually look at potential employment in this area. And so I had been visiting her a couple times last couple of years, talking to her about it. And so I did come with some information. I didn't come with a concrete plan, but she and I had talked about me living with her. She was newly separated, and we had talked about me living with her. So I also reconnected with a cousin who lives in Maryland. And so I came knowing that I would not be completely alone, and I had did some homework. I even looked at income, retirement communities, senior communities, what was safe, what was affordable, what was, the crime rate.
In Virginia also. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like to me that you had really done your homework. So I hear you saying that, that you were collecting information. So that's something that, for those of you out there listening, that these are great, this is great information that if you are in the process or think that you need to do an adjustment or realignment, that collect the information. Collect information, do your research, talk to people. You said you wrote things down, because a lot of times, I think one of our guests talked about writing things down also, because a lot of times we can hear information. If we don't write it down, we'll lose it. And when we talk, I knew I heard that somewhere, or where did I do that? So writing was important. I think that you also looked at opportunities there, employment opportunities. Is it safe here? What is the crime rate here? What is the cost of living going to look like? Am I going to be able to afford to be able to live here? So all of those things are really good. But one of the things that I want to point out to you, the guys that are listening, and Regina, you can talk about this a little bit more, is self-awareness. So it sounds like to me, and tell me in your own opinion, how does that self-awareness during your realignment journey, how much does that come into play? And what role does that have in making these decisions?
That is the biggest piece. You have to be aware of what you need in order to survive in any environment, I think. I need a relative amount of safety. I had visited here, but I was willing to look beyond my friends' community to see what I really like, what I really need. So at one point I did come here, and I was not with her. I stayed closer to where I'm living now in Virginia. So I know what kind of community as a single woman I have to live in so that I feel secure or safe or whatnot. And so as I went to look for rental properties, I did the homework there too. I wanted to know what was in that area, what was available to me, what was walkable, what was safe, where is the shopping,
It's ladies, shopping.
Yeah. Well, and shopping means groceries too. I wanted to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because there are some really nice communities, but they may be nowhere near shopping. I want to see what was going to be compatible to work and, traveling, what was traveling like. So I had to explore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said I had to explore. You have to be willing to put the time in. And at the time, I have a dog. So I knew to come here and explore, I had to have someone watch my dog. But at the meantime, I was looking at, pet sitters, what rental properties accepted a dog. All of that was part of the homework and the research.
Wow. There was a lot.
It was
had to research. So, when an individual is realigning or making that necessary adjustment, how would you say that you can strike that balance between adjusting were necessary and staying true to your core values?
Again, I think is knowing what your needs are. I'm a person who needs community, but I don't necessarily have to have somebody that I'm communicating with 2 or 3 times a day. I'm pretty motivated to take care of my needs and do what I need to have those needs met. So as you can see, I did a lot of research and homework before I even came here, and I also know my personality is the type that I'm going to ask. I'm going to seek the information that I need. I'm going to ask what I need to ask to have those needs met. So you have to be very aware of what your needs are, what you need on a daily basis as far as interacting with other people or moral support. You have to know what you need.
So Regina, what would you say are some of the key, give me maybe about 3 key lessons that you have gathered or that you have embraced from this adjustment?
That people are people everywhere. People have the same basic needs. People go to the grocery store, they work, they go to the doctor, they have to have car repair. So you don't have to be estranged. Making an adjustment in a new place, you can find that people have the same basic needs wherever you go. People with children want a decent school and, a safer environment. People have the same basic needs wherever you move here. Another key advice is know your income. I had to know some information about the cost of living before I moved here. Know what you can afford. Know what the culture is like. And culture, I'm not necessarily talking about race, but the culture here is very fast paced. That's something I needed to know before I just moved into a place where population density is so overwhelming, so I had to know something about the culture here, the environment, how people did things. Shopping here is a little different in some places than it is in the South. A lot of the shopping centers are parking underground. Parking on the street. Know something about the environment you're moving to. And that includes knowing what your income will pay for.
So are those lessons that you've learned? Are those lessons that you have learned since?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was used to staying in a 3-bedroom house where you pull in the driveway. A lot of times, no matter what the income level is for living here, a driveway might not be available. It's just not part of the culture here. It's not something people stress about. They adjust to. In fact, the community I live in is very walkable. People do a lot of walking because they know that they might have to look for a parking space. So know your purse before you move anywhere, because it might affect your income. It might affect your purse, the cost of living, and the culture. And then know your personality type. Are you what is it? Extrovert or introvert? That might affect where you decide to live. It's population density here, which means you're going to come across a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures. So know your personality type so you'll know how to engage in a healthy way with the people around you. You don't have to befriend everybody, but you need to have some self-awareness so you'll know how to engage.
Well, it sounds like you have done pretty well at adjusting and, embracing this, your realignment and, the change that you've gone through and some of the challenges that you had to face. So speak on how could an individual or a person navigate the fear of resistance that often accompanies, having to change. And I think that a lot of times that is what keeps us from moving to what you mentioned it earlier, that joy that we have been guaranteed or that we have been promised, the joy. So how can one overcome that fear of that? And if you had any, what were some of the things that you did? How did you move past that, if that was the case for you?
I don't remember fear being a big part of it. And if I might be honest, Vivian, selling my house, it kind of mediated some of that fear because money talks. You've heard the saying, money talks. And so if you are a person who has means, you can overcome that. Fear might be overcome just because you have the ability to take care of yourself in almost any environment. And that's just being real. So and I said one of the advice pieces was know your own needs. Mm-hmm. You would move to somewhere away from your family, away from the friends, and what brings you security if you don't have the means. Big adjustments like that, definitely having an income or having the means makes it easier to make those kind of adjustments. But I think you asked about strategies or something to get past fear of making adjustments, even making new friendships. I think you have to know your personality type. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned that before, that knowing your personality. Like I believe that the average person might be somewhat unaware of their personality type, about how they engage others and what their perception of what they think others think about them. And that comes from knowing your own personality type. I am a talker. And for the most part, I can strike up a conversation, but I do know in the presence of some people, I'm not comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. So making adjustments is just about being aware of your own needs and being aware of your own strengths. What can I do to make adjustments?
So it sounds like for you, it was just being able to know that you were going to be able to financially take care of yourself. Selling your home, did you go through any emotional things of letting go of that? Because so many times we become attached to things. And one of the things that we can really become attached to is our home, because that is where we've entertained. You talked about entertaining. This is a place where family can come over. This is a place where many memories have been made. And I can remember when I was selling a home one time that the realtor told me, he said, go ahead and do your moaning and do your grieving, because you are going to grieve this home. And I'm like, seriously, is she really? I don't think so. But it really was real. So I think you're saying that selling your home gave you such a peace of knowing now I've got the finances that I can really take care of myself. So this has been like a monkey on my back, really.
Especially since I couldn't make the repairs. So the grieving was probably coming on slowly, Vivian, when I noticed the kids weren't coming over as often, when the joy was not in planning a big family gathering, because I had an awful lot of family in Charlotte, but just did not see the joy in planning something to have them come over in the way that I did initially when my mom was living. Um, the grieving also, I had an awareness too that maybe I hadn't grieved my mother in the way that I thought maybe I had. And just accepting that things do change. And so the grieving probably came on slowly, especially when I started doing the floors, redoing the floors and painting. I think that was an eye opener for me that this house is I'm not painting for me. I'm painting to sell this house. I'm changing the floors so I'll get something out of this house. So the grieving could have been happening, but it was kind of subtle. I believe the reason that happened was because I had already grieved the house. It wasn't what, it had been. So.
Well, I tell you what, sister, you've given us some really good information here. So, listeners out there, I hope you were taking notes. And if you are in a position, and I don't take notes if you're driving, you can replay this podcast, okay? You can replay this episode. But Regina, I have just seen you blossom and balloon. And of course, within a year, you have authored 2 books. 2 books. And I can't even get a daily scripture thing written out here. But of course, those of you that are listening, her first book, which I mentioned early, was I See by the Grace Given Me by God. And you can order this book wherever you order your books online, Amazon, and I think there's a couple of other places that you can order this book. And Regina, we'll share that. But her new book that is just duly published is called Adjust When Necessary. Beautiful, beautiful packaging here, a beautiful book cover. And of course, you see a picture of the author here on the back. So, Regina, share with the listening audience what inspired you to write this book. And guys, I'm telling you, it is some wonderful, wonderful nuggets in here and these some beautiful quotes. And I tell you, you have got to get this. So what inspired you?
So, Vivian, just briefly, the first book was just my commitment to doing what I said I was going to do, and but not to brush it away. The first book was just me acknowledging that I had healing. I had healed. God had healed some things, and so that was a commitment to just finish something that I said I was going to do, publish my healing on record. And the second book, just, making adjustment, moving here, acknowledging once again that journaling has always been a healing thing for me. It's always been my refuge to go back and read and see the work that God has done in me. And then I wanted to give that to other people. I wanted to provide a journal for not just women, but whoever might want to take a try at journaling, just to process some of the things that they ponder and think about. You'll see how much growth you've done by journaling.
Well, I love this journal, and I love the way that you've set it up. It's a little bit different because it is not how you just journal one day. You've given the owner of this book the opportunity to kind of journal at their own pace. And so talk about how did you come about that? Because this is really beautiful and really unique. I'm not going to show it to you. You got to buy the book yourself so you can see it for yourself. So share with them, please.
And I want to do more of that, create journals where people, because our lives don't align with everybody's life. I think everybody's story is unique and individual. And someone gave me a journal that was kind of set up the way that I have it here. And it gave you a chance to date your own story, to date your own entry, date your own progress, so that our life is not a cookie cut of somebody else's life. We can create our own journal. And I really love how God put it together and gave it to me to do so, because our life is unique.
Yes,
And
this is beautiful.
I love it. And we adjust at
An
different times.
autographed copy.
We don't make adjustments when somebody else make adjustments. It depends on what's going on in our life, and our thoughts are different. Our goals are different, and so that's why I wanted to offer to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, I see in this and that you've shared here in this episode with us is that writing has been very important, very instrumental to you, even when you were looking at how do I make this next step? How do I make this next move? You were writing things down.
Mm-hmm.
And, and we've known each other for quite a long time. And, in all of your life, you've always written. And I remember in our first interview that one of the things that you had promised your boys is that you were going to complete your education and that you had promised yourself that you were going to write a book. So these are some goals that you are seeing unfold. And so I would say to you, those of you that are listening out there, don't become impatient with yourself. Mm-hmm. Don't give up, because it may not happen over time, but it's going to happen in the right timing. Mm-hmm. So, Regina, with you becoming more self-aware of yourself and really going inward and taking that time to do that, and look what you've birthed. And so you said that one of the things that you wanted to do also, one of your goals, I heard you say, was to travel. So how's that working out for you? Have you been able to do any traveling?
I've been telling people lately that my sister and I never dreamed when we were children that we would be able to plan trips and travel, but God has just blown my mind. He has just blown my mind. I was sharing with my church group that this past spring we went to Alaska, and the next big trip is Greece. And I'm serious when I tell you, it was something we never imagined. We just did not imagine. So when Vivian tells you don't give up, it may not have happened in the early part of your life, but just keep trusting God. He has our whole life stretched ahead of us, and we just trust Him. He can show us some amazing things. Some people do have a great life in their childhood. That's their story. But I remember years ago, Vivian and I did a workshop. You don't know my story. You do not know my story. Yes. Because I truly value every person's story. Moving here and making that adjustment, I told you I don't remember being fearful, because that's something God has given to me to value, to listen, and just know in my heart everybody's story is unique. And so I can meet new people and meet them where they are, and hope that they meet me where I am, because we all have a story, and it's all important. It's all unique. And I value my story by writing it down, and I encourage other people too, because sometimes that's all we have to leave to the next generation is our story.
Absolutely. And we just have to adjust when necessary. Because I'm reminded of scripture in Jeremiah 29:11, he says, I know the plans that I have for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hope and a future, and to prosper you. And also we talked about the fear, but when we are ingrained in the word, he says, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Yes. So, Regina, with that, we're going to start wrapping it up. So how, if people want to reach out to you or they would like to get a copy of I See by the Grace Given Me by God or Adjust When Necessary, how would the listeners get copies of these books?
So I See by the Grace Given Me by God is on Amazon and Kindle. You can download Kindle or you can order the hard copy. And I went with bookbaby.com for Just When Necessary because it's going to offer me more networking online than just Amazon. So you can find that book at store.bookbaby.com. Adjust When Necessary, or you can just go to bookbaby.com and type in my name, Regina Stradford, and the book will come up. I have a page that you can order directly from.
And that's Book Baby. Can you spell it out for them?
Book, Book, and baby, Baby. That's all one word, bookbaby.com. I'm on social media, wellread.com on all the social medias. It's actually my email address at Gmail, but definitely on the social medias, you can find me at wellread. LinkedIn, what's the other one? LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wellread.com.
Okay, is it wellread.com or is it wellread64?
Wellread64, you're right. Yes.
Wellread64 on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram.
And if anybody wants to reach out to you personally to find out more about the story or more about how to get started with writing or journaling, can they reach you at your email address?
Yes.
Those medias. You can direct message her on any of those meetings. So, Regina, do you have any offers that you want to reach out to our listener audience here today?
If you would show me that you listen to this podcast and you connected with Vivian and this podcast by email, that means you could Snapchat it or whatever you want to do, then I can send you the book. I remember when I wrote the book, the first book, God Say Give It Away, because truly my heart is in helping encourage somebody else. So if you can show that you listen to this podcast and connect it with Vivian at this podcast site, I will send you the book. And you can connect with me by email, wellread@gmail.com.
Wellread64.
64
at gmail.com. Girl, sister, I love you. I love you some more. And we just have so much fun together because, we talk a lot. And one of the things that we all need is somebody that we can be able to be open, transparent, and just be able to peel it all back and share. So, and Regina is that kind of person. She has a background in human behavior. So she's a great person for you to connect with. So, sister, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and sharing with our audience here. I know that they have gotten a lot from you today. You have shared from your heart, you've shared from your soul, and I know that these are some tidbits and some really nuggets and some words of wisdom that people will be able to move forward with. So Thank you, listeners out there. If, in fact, you have enjoyed this episode today and you found value in it, please make sure, just like you would share a good movie. Everybody's talking about The Color Purple. Those of you that are going to see it, now y'all know y'all going to share that, or a good book you've read, share this podcast with them. Okay, don't leave them out. Don't leave your buddies out. So thank you once again for tuning in. And until the next time, I wish you all a Merry Christmas and peace. I hope you enjoyed this episode. The best gift that you could give me is to share this podcast with family and friends. And don't forget to review it. That way, this podcast will grow organically. If you need to reach out to me, please check out my Facebook page, DM me there, or you can email me at godskow@gmail.com. We have upcoming Bible studies that we would love for you to join us in, or if there is a guest or someone that you would like to see me interview on this podcast, please let me know. We are here to work together to realign our lives. Until the next episode, take care, and I look forward to sharing more and more with you as we realign our lives. Peace until next week.